I wanted to ask before we go too much further, so let me understand correctly, the audience that you really wrote this book for is one, the parents who are raising children to help them understand, who are interested in baseball, to understand what they need to go through and become better players, and also who else is it for?
Anybody that likes history, really. And
baseball.
Yeah, even Susan Larson said something that she thought first it was going to be a how-to manual
right.
of how a kid gets to the major leagues, and she found out that that was not the case at all.
Yeah.
It is a story about who we are as a people. It's about our culture, where we came from, why we are who we are, and why we're different than the folks in Europe and other places.
Right.
And I think that when you look at baseball, the reason it became our pastime, well, there are some reasons, and they're specific, and I go into it in the book because I don't believe it was accidental that we adopted this game. And
Let's speak to that a minute. How do you mean that wasn't accidental?
Well, it originated back in colonial days from a game that came over from England. It was the name of that game is Rounders, and it had a ball that was put into play, and they had bases, and kids played it. Now that developed into games that were referred to as town ball, and this would be back in the early 1800s.
Really? Huh.
So there were a variety of versions that were played of this. The most important one was in New York, and that version of town ball became what we know as baseball today.
Really?
But interestingly enough, in about 1804 and 1805, the Lewis and Clark expedition, they taught a game of ball to the Indians when they were going up the Northwest Passage.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, how did you find out all this? Just reading through history books?
Just reading, yeah, in the research that I did.
Well, the part that really interests me about your book, and I'm eager to read too, is that whole process of how to help someone play a game. I think I manage a staff, and it's interesting. Likewise, because you are dealing with a team, but people have to perform as individuals. I just am enthralled with that thought of how do people process to hit a higher level of excellence that they are chiefly responsible for.
If you can teach a kid to do that in baseball, that's something he can carry into other parts of his life, too.
Absolutely. And Tom always talked about that, and what a great lesson in working with other people and developing your own skills and dedication and team spirit and on and on. Well, the book is available on Amazon.com.
Yes, it is.
And it was published by
BookSurge.
BookSurge.
Which is an Amazon company.
Okay, great. And for folks who want to find out more, they can go to, and we'll have this on the screen, roadtothebigs.com. That's a great title. Now, we were talking a little bit before the show, and I love this, about how did you get passionate about baseball, and you said that you were the worst Little League player ever.
Of the 20th century.
Of the 20th. Oh, okay, not ever, just of the 20th century. Well, but you were just passionate about
Well, I was just an average player, I guess, as a kid, but we played from when I was very young.
Right.
And I
T-ball?
I played little. No, we didn't have T-ball back then.
Okay.
But we played in the backyard, and we played in schoolyards and in sand lots, and then we had a league, and I was in the Little League, the first level of Little League, and then the upper level of Little League, and had a wonderful time. And when I had my own son, and he got to where he could hold a bat and hold a glove, and we started. No, actually,
my stepson
it was about first grade.
First grade.
Yeah, it was about first grade. And,
okay.
We started to play catch in the yard, and one thing led to another. I noticed that he really enjoyed it from the start. And a lot of these kids do, if you get them started early enough but not too early, and allow them to adapt to it at their own pace.
And in their own style, I would imagine.
In their own style, and I'm not so sure of T-ball. I don't object to it, but I wonder how much good it does. I think if a father and some kids in the neighborhood could play together casually in the yard first and just get them going, that
before
probably
it becomes a competitive, high pressure. I've seen some of the parents on the ball field. I wasn't very good at it. I kind of stayed away from the politics. Thought, is this really going on? Do you think it's bigger in the South?
I think it's big everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. Who are your favorite teams?
Well, the Atlanta Braves, of course.
Of course. Do you have a favorite player?
Favorite player? No, I can't say I have a favorite player. There's so many good players, and I personally know a good number of them, so I hate to start naming players.
Right.
But one thing I have found out, these professional ball players, once you get to know them, are not at all like what people think.
How do you mean? In a very good way, I'd imagine.
Very good way. They're very personable. once you get past, the barrier, and that's true with football players and basketball players that I've met over the years. They are guarded to a certain extent,
well, they're
because
public figures.
They are.
Absolutely.
But once you get through that, you find out that they're all just like regular people. They all started in the Little League.
Of course.
And they worked their way
With
up.
dedicated parents.
And they
no
love the
doubt.
game.
They love the game.
With very, very few exceptions, these guys love playing the game.
Well, that's one thing I found in being with Tom and his children. They love it, just absolutely passionate about that game, which I think it's so wonderful for a kid to have a passion like that, and a parent who is willing to take the time that is necessary, because they do develop in so many different areas. Well, now your son plays on your I know all the terminology. Your ball field, your team.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's how old?
He's 26 now. He's an accountant.
He's an accountant too. Okay, like you. So for fun, all the serious work.
He's doing much better than me.
As the accountant or the ball player?
As both.
Oh, good. Well, you're a good father.
No, he's on his own. He works for a CPA firm, and he's doing quite nicely.
Great. What are your plans for the ball team as you move forward?
I'm going to wait and see what the city council does.
Great.
I know the mayor wants to keep that ball field.
Yay, good,
and
good.
She understands the history of Norcross better than anyone over there. There's a heritage that needs to be preserved, and I also think that the city of Norcross should be the center of baseball, of youth baseball in all of Georgia.
Well, there we go. You heard it here from Gerald Barnes. Why not?
It shouldn't be East Cobb, and it shouldn't be Chatham County, and not Valdosta. Those are great places.
Do you think, since we're out of time, I would love to have you back and hear how things are rolling along and understand more why you think that and the advancements on your field of dreams?
That would be great.
Great. Thank you, Gerald, for visiting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Road to the Bigs. Look at it at Amazon.com. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.